Hi, we're Chelsea and Michael.
And this is the Coffee with Creators podcast.
Think of it as hanging out with your buddies as we chat about content creation, social media,
and life in general as creatives.
So grab your favorite drink and welcome to our scrappy little podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet again another episode of Coffee with Creators. How are you, Michael?
I'm good, Chelsea. How are you?
I'm good. Are you fangirling over our guest that we have today? I know you were primping in the mirror, getting prepared and ready to go.
I was. You notice my
panicked?
hair? Fix
I
it.
know.
My wife
So
was like,
fancy.
wait, did you have a meeting today? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, is it over Zoom? I'm like, yeah. She's like, why are you getting dressed? I'm like, well, I want to be presentable. That's all. Especially for our guest today. I'm very excited.
He wore his fanciest of shirts just for our guest.
I know. I'm sorry.
Exciting.
This is the fanciest shirt that I could find today. Everything else is still in the washer, so at least you guys can smell it. So.
That's good. Okay.
I'm sorry. Too much information.
Michael made it weird. So I will let you introduce our guests since I know you are so excited to have them along for the journey.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to have this person on this podcast because I've been following this content creator for a few months now. I think I discovered him when he was getting up there, in terms of like followers. Mm-hmm. And I said, like, this guy's content is really good and I can see this guy blowing up. Like, dude, no question, because his stuff is just really nice. I like his personality. I like the quality of his videos. And I started following him on on Instagram. And sure enough, just like within like a few months, like his followers just like kept skyrocketing. And it was just like, man, this guy's crazy. And then our good friend Jared, had the pleasure. Yeah, had the pleasure of having him as a guest. So I did what I would not normally do and steal his guest. So, one day I feel like we're just going to get rid of Jared. We're going to be like, hello, everyone. Welcome to the High Podcast with Chelsea and Michael.
We've stolen his podcast.
We'll steal his podcast. I even messaged him. I said, Jared, I'm going to steal your guest. And he's like, I'm going to steal all your guests. I'm like, that's fine with me. So anyway, long story short, this guy is very inspiring to not only me, but to a lot of content creators and just people in general out there. And even like so much that last night I couldn't even sleep because I was trying to rack my brain and figure out
true story
what to say, what to ask him. Like I made a post on Instagram. I'm like, I don't even know what to say. You know what I mean? So, but I figured, just because we're scrappy like this, we'll just kind of wing it. And luckily, this guy's genuine. And in the last few minutes that we've been chatting with him, he's been nothing but just awesome. So I'll cut this finally, but let's welcome to this scrappy little podcast, Peter Lindgren.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you very much for having me.
We are so excited to have you. And I know I've expressed that earlier already, yes. But it's just, it kind of boggles my mind that we managed to find, we managed to get you on the podcast, considering that you must be extremely busy. So thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yes, I am busy, but like I'm still a regular dude, just living my life here in Sweden, doing the same thing as anyone else does. Go to the grocery store, cooking food, spending time with my kid. Occasionally answers my emails.
Isn't that funny though? Like Chelsea and I do the same thing. We're like, people think that because I guess maybe when people see you all the time on social media, on YouTube or even on Instagram, they think that you're living this super extravagant lifestyle, but where in fact. I'm speaking more towards like the video that you just posted a week or 2 weeks ago about with the title. Apologies, I can't remember the exact title, but something like "I'm just like you," or what was the title again?
Yes.
Yeah, and then you were basically just saying that you are just like everyone else who is also inspired by other people. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Peter McKinnon played a very huge role in your work, your creativity. Actually, so maybe talk a little bit more about that. Like, how did you get into this whole YouTube space. Maybe share your story.
It feels like I've talked about this, but I'm gonna try to like attack it from a different angle here.
Okay.
So I think that most like videographer, YouTubers that are into like the camera niche that I am, they probably have worked with like wedding photography or portrait photography, some kind of photography before they start a YouTube channel. For me, it was like I'm coming from bodybuilding, you know. It's like I was this big dude, like 125 kilos of pure muscle, like The Rock.
Wow.
Okay.
Like like I was big. I'm gonna post a photo on my Instagram so you can see that after the podcast is over, and then you're gonna be like, whoa.
He can't fit in my screen.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then, like, when you think about bodybuilding, one thing that you don't really consider is that it's all about light. You know, when they stand and pose on stage, it's all about the lighting, the angles, the different kind of like physiques that they want to show off, and how they do it the best with the lighting that they have accessible. So you kind of learned to play around with light when I was doing the bodybuilding thing, and then of course you're very like what's the word for it? Like you take photos of yourself every single day to see the
The progression. Yeah.
And you do that a lot, and then you play around with the different angles, and then you start to like find a interest in, or I did found a interest in photography, and then eventually I started a clothing brand within the fitness niche. Totally failed though. We can get to that later, but
It happens.
it happens, and I think that it's also good that I failed, because then I eventually led up to this point in a way.
Yes.
But I remember when I started the brand, it was like I thought it was too expensive to hire a photographer to take the product photos. So I was like, nah, I'm not gonna hire a product photographer. I'm gonna do this myself. And I borrowed a camera, a Nikon D300S, from a friend of mine, and he was like, yeah, you can borrow it. I never use it anymore, so just go for it, you know. And I was like, yeah, okay, I can do this. And I started shooting, and I had no clue what I was doing, like literally no clue. I was like, okay, what does this do? And they're like, oh, like brightness. And then this, what does this do? It's about, oh, brightness here as well. So then I was like, it took a while before I started like understanding that, okay, the focal length that you use, the different aperture that you use, like those things. And eventually the more product photos that I took, I also got interested in video. And that kind of like kickstarted my interest for the whole videography thing that I'm involved in right now. But I was working on DHL Express when this happened. So like 9-to-5 job, dropped out of school, that kind of dude, you know? So that's where I come from.
It's very interesting that you said that you're glad that part of your business, or that life, or maybe venture failed. And I guess you could look at it that way, right? Like you could look at it as from a perspective that it failed, or you could just say that it just ushered you in towards like a different direction, and eventually you let it die down on its own, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, when you're there, it's gonna suck. Like nobody wants something that they worked on to create to fail. That's one of the worst feelings ever. But if you keep pushing through, then hopefully and eventually something else will happen. It may not be the thing that you set out for the first time, but it might be something better or something different if you like try to just go for it, you know? So I think that is very, very important to have in mind whenever you're trying any kind of venture, may it be photography or playing guitar or bodybuilding or whatever it is. Like, it's going to take time, and you're not always going to end up on the path that you set out to.
Right. I just want to share something really quick, because before you actually hopped on the call, I was telling Chelsea something that that I never got to finish because I saw you like, oh, Peter's there, like let him in. So I just let him in the room. But my wife actually was into the bodybuilding scene. Yeah, and like this was before we had our kids. So we had our daughter in 2015. So she this was like 2013 or 2014, I think.
Yeah.
And so it gave me a very different perspective, right? So in the beginning, when I had no idea what that was all about, I was always intimidated by all these muscular, and Peter, if you know me, I'm a very short guy. Like you would probably, if I was walking around in like a theme park, you'd be screaming, "Whose child is this? Someone left their child here." So I'm a short guy.
Michael.
Yeah.
So how tall are you?
I'm 5'5", so I'm a pretty short guy.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I'm 6'2".
Peter, oh.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I can pick you up." Yeah, I'm a short guy, and so luckily I'm still taller than my wife, so that's fine. But every time
you're taller than Lynn, you're good to go.
As long as I'm taller than Lynn, I'm fine. But every time I'm outside, I'm reminded about how small I am, and especially so when my wife was participating in this whole very, very new scene, like for me, encountering all these people, like the people that she trained with at the gym, her trainer, they're huge, and it's just like I don't want to talk to you, you're so scary. But the one thing I did notice about them is that they are, I'd say 90% of them are the most genuine and coachable people that you will ever meet. And I think that's the key there. They're coachable because you know why? They respect the work. They respect the work that they put in. They put in the work day in and day out. And they know that if they don't put in the work, there will never be any result. And I saw that in my wife as well. Yeah, like she really sacrificed a lot to get to that point. And it gives them a very different just perspective. And then suddenly, when they see someone, instead of you, like my original fear that they'll probably put me down and be like, look down on me. I mean, literally they do because I'm a short guy, but you know what I mean? They're very encouraging. Yeah, they're very encouraging. They're like, "Oh no, you can do it. Like I can teach you." They're that type of people. And I think because of your background, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just guessing. But this is what I was trying to tell Chelsea earlier. And I think this is why I liked your persona from all the things that I've seen and all the things that you've said, is that comes across like as someone who is not afraid to fail. Yeah. And someone who is willing to do the work as much as that what's needed to get the result, regardless of, it should fail or not. You're just putting yourself out there because you know that as long as you keep doing it, regardless of what happens, you are going to get better. I think that's just the nature of things, right? You keep doing something, you'll just get better. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, bodybuilding is definitely one of those things that you can't look forward like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You have to look forward like half a year, 2 years. Like that's the thing with bodybuilding, because the results takes time. And as you said, one of the biggest things that I heard when I was at my peak, like when I was the biggest, it was like people saying, "Oh, he looks dangerous." It's like, and I'm like, I just want to go to the gym, do my thing, and then go home, lie on the couch, take it easy, eat some chips, after I had my chicken, my rice, my la 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 la. But it's when someone asked me a question, I was like, yeah, absolutely, I can help you. What do you need help with? Like, I was super helpful, but no one ever came to ask me a question because they were afraid of me. Like it's people
intimidating.
Have this, intimidating. I think that's the word, because it's I think it's a part of nature. We humans, like when we see someone that is big, muscular, then we're like, oh, he's dangerous, or something along that kind of like feeling, I think. And it's weird because I've heard that so many times. But as you said, people that are in the bodybuilding niche or bodybuilding genre or whichever you call it, they're very
they're the
helpful and
opposite of
kind.
they're the opposite of what you probably think. Like, I mean,
Yes.
let's try to think of The Rock right now, right? The Rock is
Exactly.
he's like a
He seems
monster.
like- but he seems like the most genuine person you would ever meet in your
Exactly.
life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Even though he looks like this big guy, he literally bought a Pikachu costume because his daughter loved Pikachu, and his wife filmed him like running around in this costume. He takes the head off. He's like, "This is ridiculous," and then he puts the head back on. I'm like, "That's so cute. I love it."
It's amazing. And imagine seeing him, not having met him before, and not having heard him talk or anything like that. Just seeing him in the supermarket, you would be afraid. You would be like, "Oh, this dude knows what's up." Like,
yeah. This guy's gonna kill me just by looking at me.
Yeah. So
I'm afraid.
they were filming Jumanji, the first one. Well, the reboot that he and Kevin Hart were in. They were filming that when I lived on Oahu, and a lot of my friends went over to Kualoa Ranch, which is where they were filming, and they got to see him and see Kevin Hart and Jack
Awesome.
Black. And so I had the chance to go over and see him, but I had an infant at the time, and I didn't. But I always kick myself now. I'm like, I should have went over and met
Oh,
him.
really?
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
It makes me
who
really
knows?
sad now. But
Maybe he's gonna be a
anyways.
guest in the podcast sometime.
Who knows,
God.
Chelsea? Who knows? I know. Chelsea and I will die. Like we made this like
A wish list.
a dream guest list. So, and I think it's important for us for something to shoot for. You know what I mean? And you can call it whatever it is, but we call it our dream guest. And if there's anything that I've learned, it's that when you have a dream and you write it down and you try, even though it sounds ridiculous, even though it sounds like it's impossible, but you start to try to see how you can get there. It's surprising at how much you can accomplish. So let's
never know.
Sure.
yeah, you'll never know. We'll put The Rock in our dream list.
Right. The top of my dream guest list would be Charlize Theron.
Oh, I know. I think me too. We
Oh,
have
she's
this.
good.
Love her.
She's she's very
Incredible.
Yeah, I think Chelsea and I will just, you know what? We won't even say anything. It'll just be
Pass
her
out.
introducing the podcast and be like, "This is the Coffee with Creators podcast. Our two hosts are out cold right now, and this is Charlize Theron." So I think that's what's gonna happen. But
That would be the end of it.
I know.
Over.
So Peter, how old is your son right now?
He's a little bit over 1.5 years old now.
I love that stage.
Such a fun time.
age.
I love that stage. I know it's my favorite. So
You guys have
does
kids
he-
too?
We
I
do.
do.
Chelsea
I
have.
I do.
Okay.
I have a boy and a girl. My son is 7 today. His birthday is
Oh.
today. And then
Oh,
my daughter's
cool.
3.
Biggest congratulations.
I know.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Yes.
I have two children. I have a daughter who is 4,
Yep.
and my son is about the same age as your son.
Ah,
So, yeah. And
so much
he
fun
is-
when they get when they start to talk and connect different words.
Yes.
I know.
He's so
and they
amazing.
start showing their little personalities, and it's always my
so
favorite.
cute.
too.
I know. And
Yeah.
my phone is filled with photos and videos of them that it's like screaming. It's like bursting into seams already. It's like, please delete some photos because it's so full. But yeah, it's I don't know about you, Peter, but like everything that I do right now always just goes back to how are my kids going to feel about this? Do you feel the same way with this type of stuff that you work on? Or what's your inspiration? Or where do you get that drive from? I guess is a better question.
I don't know, honestly, because for me it's been so weird because when I dropped off DHL in the beginning of 2019, I did quite the opposite what everyone recommends because I did not have any saved money at all. It was like, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to try to be a freelancer. I have no idea how to get money except for like getting client work, but that was everything that I focused on, and I was lucky that I managed to get like some recurring clients. But during that time, I also had the drive in me that I need to work. Like I need to make this work because otherwise I have to go back. And our son was born in May 2019. So I remember back then, like he was born, and then I spent one night on the hospital, and then I left my wife and kid on the hospital the day after to go and work, which I feel so bad about that right now. But it was also like I was in the mindset of I can't go back to DHL. I don't want to. This like I need to make money for my family, and then I need to make this work. So I think that the drive that I have now hasn't really fallen off of that yet. But I'm starting to think more like you in the sense that I want to make my family have the best possible life that I can give them right now. That's more like what I'm starting to come into with the work that I do.
What's all the things that you've said have really, like, I resonate with that so much.
Awesome.
So I'm going to ask you, this might sound like a weird question, but what makes you uncomfortable? Like if it, like the
So
initial
many
thought.
Initial thought, uncomfortable. I don't know. I need to think about that one. But I get uncomfortable of not doing anything. You know?
I knew it.
You did. You called
I knew it. Yeah, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I see. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to just like jump on, just like cut you off. But to me, it's just you seem to be like that person who just needs progress. You need to keep moving, and that when you were saying all those things, that just like Peter's that guy. So anyway, continue. I'm sorry. I'm the worst interview in the world.
No, I think it's great. Like this is how you how you interact with people. And yeah, I mean, I really want to have something that I can do all the time. And I think that one it's also one of my biggest weaknesses, because lately, especially on the channel, I decided like, oh, I'm going to start daily vlogging, you know, I'm going to start making daily videos and push out the content. And then like 3 days in, I realized that first off, if I do it, I'm not going to have any time at all with my family because I need to edit everything. Secondly, I need to include Alex in a lot of my videos and Amanda. And fourth, I think I missed the third for those of you listening, but I hold up my third finger. But fourth is the realization that like I'm not natively speaking English when I'm hanging around with my family and when I'm hanging around with friends. So to make vlogs with that would also make it a little bit forced, if you understand it.
I see.
Because then you have to interact in a different language, and people around you might not be as comfortable as I am. And like time, that and all just stacked upon me. And then I was just like, okay, I need to take some time off and like, take it easy.
Yeah,
you know?
take it
but
easy.
it's hard. I think it's hard.
It's a double-edged sword. It really is, because as a creator, you constantly want to be creating. And then you have all of these ideas coming, and then, you know, at the end of the day, it's just you. You're the filmmaker. You're, you know, writing these scripts and you're editing, and then all of it piles up and you're like, now I'm burnt out. But I want to keep creating, but I'm also burnt out. It's like such a double-edged sword as a creator. It's terrible, but we all go through it.
I mean, and it's like when you're in it, you don't see it. But then as soon as you like pull the brake just a little bit, then you realize that, oh, crap. It's like it was moving a little bit too fast.
Yeah. I think we're just always after that high, you know what I mean? Like when you have that momentum and you just want to keep progressing, and you know, just like you, I don't like standing still. In that sense, I feel like I need to be moving somewhere, and I think it just really boils down to going back to my kids. The reason why is that when I look at my kids, it's so weird how fast they grow up. Yeah. And having seen that, it just gives me a more realistic sense of my own mortality. You know what I mean? So, like in a few years, I'll be an old man and I can't do anything. So I think it's that. You know what I mean?
You already are an old man.
I know I am an old man, but so it's like
ibuprofen like it's candy.
I know. Chelsea.
I'm sorry.
Stop telling everyone my secret. But it's just that realization that time. I think you understand this, Peter. Time is your most valuable asset. And now that you have, when you have a family, you start to weigh stuff, right? Like you start to weigh stuff like, do I want to keep working or do I want to spend time with the family? And going back to what you said though earlier, when you said that I mean, to me, honestly, if I'm listening to you, I wouldn't even have any problems at all, or even never would have even noticed it that when you said you don't speak English natively. You know what I mean? It's just
I didn't know either.
Yeah, it's like it's maybe I don't know what it is, but I don't think you sound any different. So my question is, when you look at your audience, are a big chunk of them from overseas, or do you have a significant for in Sweden as well?
No, like the Swedish audience on my channel is like 2% of all the subscribers.
Interesting. Okay.
So are they all in the United States and probably the UK as well?
Yeah, it's like the majority is from the United States, Canada, and then I think it's like Indonesia and India.
Okay.
But there's almost no one, if compared, like almost no one from Sweden that knows who I am, except for those that are really interested in like camera stuff,
That's so interesting. I wonder why.
Funny.
Do you have an idea why? Is it like a cultural thing?
I think it's, I don't know. But like when I started my channel, I was doing it in Swedish, and then I switched over to English, and then it felt so weird. And then I was like, nah, I'm going to go back to Swedish. And then I was like, yeah, but then again, how many people are into camera? Like we're a total of like 9 million people in Sweden, and maybe like a couple 100,000 of them are into cameras, and maybe like even less are using YouTube, and even less are looking for the tutorials. And then I was like, nah, I'm going to do it in English. And then I started to practice my English as well. So I also wanted to sound a little bit more American in the way that I talk, instead of just speaking English as Sweden and Peter and hey, my name is Peter.
So I have to ask, like, how hard was that for you, going from someone who natively speaks Swedish to someone who's trying to speak English and like an American? Like, how hard was that, like, just in your mind to get that mindset, like, no, I'm putting on this, like, my actor hat and I'm going to be an American? Like, I couldn't imagine me as a little American trying to speak Swedish and sound like I'm from Sweden. Like, I couldn't do it.
I'd pay to watch that, Chelsea.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you would, Michael.
That'd be a fun show.
Yes.
It would. It'd be great.
I don't know. Like now it feels kind of more normal. There's still like a couple of words where I feel that I cannot convey my thoughts into, because you don't know all the vocabulary that is. But
well, the English language is a nightmare anyways. I mean, we have so many words that mean so many other different things. Like, English is one of the hardest languages to learn. So I can imagine. That's why my question was like, how incredibly hard was that for you? Because I couldn't imagine. I mean, props to you. I love it.
Thank you. But it's also like here in Sweden, we do, like, we learn English in school. I think we start to learn English in like first grade or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah?
So it's like the second language there, I guess.
Yes, it is. And we don't have any kind of like audio tracks with Swedish. Everything has subtitles instead. So you kind of get the language in you when you're watching TV and when you're surfing the web.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. I get it.
But it's also like being able to talk English and understand is two different things. So when I was starting out, I sounded weird and I overdid it in a way. I kind of like, hey there, hope everything's good. Like trying my best.
It sounded like someone else.
Yeah, it's like, it was like that. And eventually I phased into how I speak English now, but it took me a pretty long time. And I still think it's very hard, Chelsea, to like get into the mood. For example, if I take like 4 days off work. I don't speak any English at all. And then all of a sudden you're going to go back to the YouTube studio and then you're going to record a video in English and you're like, I can't record this video. It's like,
right? That's why I had to ask, like, because I put on a different persona, or I'm trying to put on a different persona when I'm in front of the camera, because, it's just what you do. Mm-hmm. And so me trying to do my little persona that I'm trying to get into is like pretty much like myself. So I couldn't imagine like trying to be this whole completely different person, so to speak, and speaking this other language. Yeah. So I really respect you for that. Like, I wasn't.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't expect that to come from you. So that's awesome.
Just yesterday, Chelsea and I were talking about how you have to warm yourself up to start speaking in front of a camera again. Mm-hmm. And that's just warming up. I mean, I can't even imagine like, okay, tomorrow or in 2 minutes, I need to speak a different language. I'm like, what?
I couldn't do it.
What do I do? Yeah,
I really struggle in front of the camera as it is, like just trying to be myself and have the personality that I have like here on the podcast. So it's incredible. I love it. I have such a level of respect for you now.
Being in front of the camera is hard, no matter what you're doing, but trying to find what you want to convey on camera. I always say to my friends and my family that you have to crank yourself up to like 110 because otherwise you're not going to feel like those that are watching you, they won't feel the energy that you want to put through to your audience.
Yes,
exactly.
Like we can sit here and I can be like this and talk like this because I just woke up in the morning. Well, that doesn't sound good.
It's dry.
It's not effective communication. Yeah,
it is.
I completely agree. Yeah.
It also feels, I don't know, it feels like you want to, when you watch a video, I don't know about you guys, but when you watch a video, I want to have Peter McKinnon's energy coming through the screen, filling me up with positivity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's why a lot of us watch, especially a lot of creators and filmmakers, that's why we watch Peter, is because it, he inspires you to create. Like you finish a Peter video and you're like, I got it. I'm going to do it. And then I get in front of the camera and I'm just like, hey. So I get it. That's definitely what you want to convey is on YouTube or any sort of platform where you're talking to the camera.
So Peter, how long have you been doing YouTube now?
Let's see. I think it's 3 years.
Ooh.
3.5 maybe.
Wow.
I think I started the channel in for real in 2018. I think I opened up the channel in October 2017 and then started posting for real in 2018. But it wasn't until I had 800 subscribers in the beginning of 2019.
Okay. 800 in 2019, you said?
And now he has almost 500,000.
What the? That's
insane. That's insane. I started my YouTube around the same time. It was, I think, 2018 because we were in Hawaii and my daughter was not even 1 yet. So, yeah, I mean, I've not grown as fast, but I've also not put the time and energy into my YouTube as you have. So, yeah, it's incredible. I watched I think it was one of your first videos. You were in an office and it was like office B-roll. And I loved that video. And then I saw the behind the scenes. I was like, he did all of this handheld. I was like flipping out. And that was one of the first videos that I saw where someone did all of that handheld. Because mostly you see people using like gimbals and, they're doing other types of things, but I was completely blown away. And then Michael was like, we're going to have this guy, Peter, on the podcast. I was like, that's the office B-roll guy. I was like, yes.
The office B-roll guy.
Yeah.
You know what's fun with that video in particular is we the guy that is acting in that video, he's actually a good friend of mine, and I asked him, I think it was 2 days before, and I was like, hey, you want to act in a video? I got this idea. And he's like, yeah, sounds cool, man. Where do you want to shoot it? And I'm like, I don't know. Do you have a place? And he's like, yeah, I just quit my job so we can record there. So he actually has quit his job at the location where we're filming. And he's like, yeah, just come here, bring the lights, and then we'll rig something up. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do it tonight. And went over there, shot it for like, I think it was 4 hours. And the day after, I went to Stockholm, like sat down, edited the whole thing together, and just posted that the day after.
Isn't that
So
crazy?
cool.
Like
I love that.
Chelsea and I would take a week to even just
A week.
plan
It
that.
would take me months. It would take me months to write the shot list. Are you kidding me? I'm so slow.
Because do you know how I'm going to tell you, Peter, how Chelsea writes her scripts?
Oh God.
No,
She'll find random pieces of paper like old mail or something and start writing scripts on any I don't know, stray piece of paper that she'll
My
find.
hand. I use my hand sometimes too. My arm.
Oh, wow.
That's why it
just
takes
when
you for a while.
When it's in my head, I have to get it out. If I don't get it out,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be in. I'm not gonna film it, so to speak. So it's one of those things. Like I don't always have something to like really write it down or to type it out. So I'm like, okay, well, just.
But do you like when you write it down, do you get back to that idea later, or do you just like leave it as is?
I do, yeah. I get back to it, or I just when I'm filming, things will pop in my head. I will write it down, and then I will film it. But it's for me, I have to get it out of my head and onto paper, otherwise I lose it.
Yeah.
It's actually really good practice, to be honest.
It is.
I
It is very good to write things down.
Yeah. What's your creative process, Peter? Like, do you just kind of like wake up and be like, I'm going to create this and just kind of wing it. And then suddenly you have something awesome.
I feel like that's not the case for him, and I might be surprised.
I'm probably going to surprise you, Chelsea. Yes. Most cases.
You seem so put together, though. My God.
No, it's most cases. I just like get this idea, and then I am like, oh, this would be such a good idea, and then I just pick up the camera, go out and shoot things. Actually, one of my most like viewed videos on my channel, which is how to shoot a cinematic video with a smartphone, was shot in, I think it was like 30 minutes, and then edited. Yeah,
insane.
it's like I got this idea when I was like going, I think it was, we were at home with Alex. He was almost newborn, like 2 weeks old. And then I got this idea when I was going to the office, and like, oh, I should record a video on how to shoot a cinematic video with my smartphone right now.
That's crazy.
I went out to, it is. And I went out to the woods here in Sweden, like just outside the office, and then recorded this, like rigged up my A7 III, took my cell phone, walked around like on one single spot, and then just headed back to the office, edited that together, uploaded that to YouTube, and nothing. But then 3 months after, like, boof, 300,000 views in a week.
Whoa.
That's like a 20-minute video.
That's wild.
All right. Can
But-
I
I
say
love that. It's so
Yeah.
inspiring.
I was just going to say that obviously Peter is like, he has like brilliant ideas in his head, and it's awesome that you're able
I
to
don't know
share
about
it.
that.
No, I mean, just that phone, right? That whole thing I bet you there's a huge number of people out there, content creators who are listening right now, who have the same ideas. But the difference is Peter never even stopped to think of what should I use? Where should I find the perfect location? He just got up and went, he just went out there and just did it. And I think a lot of us, like myself included, are always focusing too much on the, like the tech, like I overthink things, like, what do I need? What do I all this stuff. And eventually that feeling, that sense of inspiration goes away. And now I'm not motivated to make it anymore. And even if I do make it at that point, it's just like, at some point I'll be like, should I even continue? Or should I even, then it's kind of half-assed, you know what I mean? And I think the way Peter, and, again, I could be wrong, but the way he just deals with things is just like, all right, let's do this. And it's the same way that I saw when Chelsea reached out and she said, let's start a podcast. Those are the things that I like, you know what I mean? And I think when you put yourself out there that much, when you're not so afraid, and it's normal to be afraid, but when you take that risk, that chance, who knows? I mean, look at that, 20 minutes of iPhone footage or whatever, cell phone footage, and then 300,000 views. That's crazy. So if you're listening right
That's
now,
true.
if
And
whoever's listening right now, go
to
do
this
it.
date, to this date, that video has like 1.8 or 1.9 million
Holy
views.
smokes.
That's insane. That's insane.
I love it.
I love that.
But love it.
I totally agree with you there, Michael. It's so easy to get caught up. I remember this myself when I was watching, like when I was working DHL. I came to work and then I took like a couple of minutes every day to see like the new videos from Peter, from Maddie, from Casey, and then you're like, oh, but they have this like super expensive equipment, and then the awesome cameras, and they fly helicopter everywhere, and then you start to think to yourself that they started somewhere, and
Yes.
and that brings me back to one of my first videos that I recorded in my kitchen in our apartment with like the only thing that I had, like my camera, talking about the lens that I just bought on credit, and that video got like 70,000 views. It's like just rig
Awesome.
everything up in your house if you have the possibility, if you have an idea, and get it out there, because then you also have the possibility to work on your next idea and get better at that.
There you go. That's the
Absolutely.
dinger right there. If anyone's listening to this podcast right now and you are going to take something home with you,
Take
what
that.
Peter just said, that's very, very crucial. It gives you another chance to work on that next idea. So
Yeah.
start getting those ideas out there. I mean, not
it.
just on paper, preferably, because you might lose them just like Chelsea. But
But it's a good start to get it on paper, though.
it is a good start to
Michael.
get.
You got to start somewhere.
I know you do.
Yes.
You have to start somewhere. Where do you see your channel moving? I mean, I think just like maybe a lot of creators, do you still feel like you're finding your own voice, your style, your content, or are you, maybe where are you in that timeline? Where do you feel you are? Are you still in the beginning stages of figuring things out, or give us
I
a
would
little
say
overview?
in a sense, yes, I'm still figuring things out. Because everything has been so fast, I've followed myself a lot of creators out there that have worked on the channels for years. And my channel went from 800 subscribers beginning of 2019 to 420,000 right now. And I haven't really been able to understand what is going on and how I want to like bring my channel forward from this point. What I do know is that I really enjoy doing the videos that I do, but I also, in a way, kind of want to make too much of everything. So that is why I had to pull the handbrake a little bit.
I see.
On the daily vlogs, for example. It's like, I love Casey's daily vlogs. I want to make daily vlogs. Then I realized that, maybe that's not going to be possible because I don't.
So many factors.
Yeah. So
Many.
Yeah, there's so many
so
factors.
much stuff that goes into that, and people don't understand. Like,
No.
I know when Casey, he was going like full force with daily vlogs for months, back in 2017 and stuff. And then he got burnt out and quit. And people were like, where are your daily vlogs? Where did you go? And I'm like, you guys, you don't understand like how much goes into this. Like, it's eventually going to get stale. And it's eventually you're going to get burnt out because it's just a lot.
Draining.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's draining.
It is. And then you also realize that Casey's Casey. You can't do a Casey.
Exactly.
You can't do
You
Casey.
can't be- no one can be Casey except for Casey.
He's one of those people. I honestly don't see how he does it. I don't know if it's just because like right now it's maybe, I thought maybe it's like that's all he's doing is like those daily vlogs right now, but I don't know. I feel like it's probably not. I feel like it's probably just one thing out of a million that he's doing.
Yeah. What's the most
be.
challenging part for you overall, I guess, Peter, since your growth from 2019? Let's just cover that 1 year, 2019 to 2020. Like, what was the most challenging thing about that journey so far?
I think being able to grasp everything, and that I have a bigger responsibility now with what I do as well. But for me, it's like I don't see myself as a YouTuber in that sense, and I never thought. I've said this multiple times, but I never thought that I would be in this position. So for me, it's very challenging to know what to post. Like what is it that I find interesting that my audience can relate to and that they want to see in the future, without it getting boring.
Yeah.
Because I mean, looking at the poker video, as those of you listening that knows who I am probably have seen it. It was fun to shoot and it turned out great, but I can't keep doing the poker video over and over because eventually that's going to get stale and it's going to be boring,
Yeah.
And also there's almost no YouTuber here in Sweden that is doing the same thing or anywhere else in Europe that I know of, except for James Matthews in the UK.
I have not discovered his channel yet.
Yeah,
so I
I've not
think
either.
You're in for a treat. He's really good.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. I got something to look
James,
forward to.
if you're listening, I'm giving you a promo here.
James, would you like to call on the podcast?
Yeah, come on over, friend.
That would be awesome.
He would be down, I'm sure.
Oh, you think so? All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
New list. There we go.
Got it.
Awesome.
Reach out to him.
We will.
Sure.
Chelsea, write it on the paper. Don't lose that paper.
Okay, yeah. I won't. It'll be on my arm here. What did you say, James? What?
I think it's James Matthews.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I also, like, lately I've been experimenting a whole lot on the channel. Ever since my buddy Edwin joined in to help me shoot things, we've been like experimenting with vlogs, with different kind of cinematics videos and short films even, and we're starting to find a way where we kind of want to take the channel. And I think that if we find that route that we want to go, then 2021 is going to be one hell of a year.
Ooh, I'm excited. I can feel that.
Like it will be.
Yeah.
I know. When you said short films, I was like, I
Yeah.
love short films. I'm
Yeah.
such a sucker for those.
So
I love them.
I have to ask Peter then. So, I mean, you like making these short films and just like very, very artsy, creative stuff.
Thank you.
When you were growing up, were you ever exposed to any of this stuff, or is it just you kind of grew into as you became an adult?
I've always been creative. Always been doing something that is creative. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I was drawing a whole lot, sketching things, and then I started reading anime, Dragon Ball. Probably know that.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
My husband.
And
likes
I
it.
loved Dragon Ball Z. Oh,
Z,
best
yeah.
thing ever.
Yeah.
So I was reading that like back to back whenever those books came out, and then I started playing guitar. I still played that for 7 years, and then that is where the bodybuilding came in and took over. But now I eventually like found my way back to something creative.
Oh, that's so cool.
That is cool. It's a nice
So
arc.
I think, yeah, it's like I think that the bodybuilding is in a way kind of a like, how do you call it, like break between the creative things.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you went back to it. But it's like I always like doing DIY stuff here in the office, such as this
I know,
tripod
was-
in the ceiling.
That was the first thing I noticed. I'm like, okay, how can I do that here in my house?
I know. I know. My wife will not be happy. It's like, why does our kitchen look like this? Like, okay, sorry.
Is that a lamp?
I know.
Yeah. My husband would die if I was in here with power tools mounting something to the
Chelsea, what are you
rafters.
doing?
So, oh my God.
I bet he would be impressed.
Probably, but also when we were first married, we bought this like super cheap. We had no money. We were young and
Yeah.
broke. But anyways, we bought this really cheap dining room table from Target, and it was like particle board that you had to put together. It all came in like a flat box, and then, you had to put every piece together. My task was to put together one chair. I put it together. And then when the movers came and we moved out of an apartment and we moved to Maryland, the movers came and they picked up the chair and they were going to make sure it was like secure. All of the bolts came out. Like they picked the chair up and it just like the legs fell off and the bolts fell out. And James was like,
So embarrassing.
That's the one you put together. It was so embarrassing. I had so there's like support bars in between the two legs. I had those upside down. So when they flipped the chair, so keeping the chair like upright the way it's supposed to be, held it together. So when they flipped it up, everything fell out and it started to fall apart. It was so bad.
Chelsea's
so
just
bad.
on brand.
Oh yeah, always. I've been that way my whole life.
This time around, it will be different. Maybe you'll be able to mount it securely to the ceiling.
Yeah. How about we film you assemble something from IKEA?
Yes.
That's a good idea. Well, I put these shelves together and they're not too bad.
I see it
rickety.
wiggling, yeah, and
They're
it falls.
rickety.
So funny.
So rickety.
All right. Well, Peter, we're gonna wrap up pretty soon with this podcast, and it just wanted to ask a couple more questions if you don't mind. So
Sure.
I think you've really shared a lot of the things that maybe goes behind the scenes that we don't, or maybe it gave us, like me personally, a different perspective as to how you became who you are right now. Do you think? I guess if anyone else is watching or listening to this podcast, what is your biggest advice that you can give them if they want to follow, maybe a similar footsteps? Because I know you mentioned even in your video that you are inspired by Peter McKinnon, and a lot of people are also inspired by you. And I know you spoke about you just being like an ordinary guy who just kind of just went out there and did your thing. What would be the one advice that you can give your listeners, your viewers, your audience, to maybe hopefully progress them?
Always the hardest question of them all.
Right.
I'm gonna bring my serious voice. I'm just joking.
I'm scared.
I was like, okay.
Michael's scared.
It's like story time. No, I honestly don't know what it is, but I think that do everything that you can to get better at what you want to do. And if you aren't doing that, then you're not going to get better. I think it's I always drag that back to the bodybuilding, because it's when you're lying on the couch, we all had this feeling, no matter if you're doing a 5-minute walk, 5-minute run, or a half an hour run, or just going to the gym. If you're on the couch and you know for yourself that, oh, I really got to go to the gym today, that is something that is stopping you. That is a thought that is starting to prevent you from doing the thing that you actually want to do. Mm-hmm. And when you start listening to that thought, then that is going to drag you down into this downward spiral that is the abyss that you don't want to end up in. Because being down here is way harder to bring yourself out than being here but not up here,
That's
so
good. Yeah.
I think that if you're listening to that thought and saying, you know what, I'm going to go anyways, or someone says that, hey, you want to come and hang out and shoot the sunset, and you're saying to yourself, yeah, but I want to watch this TV series. But if you want to get better at shooting sunsets or photography or videography in general, then heck yeah, you're going to go out and shoot that sunset, because you're going to get better at something. That is how you get to see it. And I think that a lot of people focus on, as you said earlier, Michael, being in the perfect spot, or having the perfect gear, or having this or that, or everything is perfect. But not everything can be perfect. It is up to you to make the perfect moment for you.
Cool.
That's
a good one.
That sounded practiced, but
No, that's a good one.
Perfect way to end. Absolutely.
I think so too. Yeah.
Very insightful.
Yeah. Oh, I have one more question, Chelsea. One more question.
Okay.
Because we always do this to our guests. So we always ask them something fun, something different, maybe.
Yeah.
So, Peter, let's pretend that there's a big reset button, right? And we pressed it, and then you are still a YouTuber. I know you don't like being called a YouTuber, but you still operate in the YouTube space, but you are not allowed to create content around camera gear or any of the usual stuff that you do.
What would you create?
What kind of content would you create?
I would probably create a workshop channel, where I weld things and make things.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what we've done today. we actually mounted a DJI Ronin S2 to an RC car.
Oh, I want to watch
Oh
that.
my God. I'm
It's
so
gonna-
excited.
It's gonna be a fun video whenever that drops. But that would probably be what I would do because I really love the DIY things.
You know what's weird? I
That's
feel like that's
incredible.
actually going to take off.
I do too.
I
Maybe.
honestly feel like that is, yeah, you know what I mean? Like I like watching stuff like that. Like let's
I
see
do
what
too.
we can
My-
create. You know what I mean?
My favorite
Yeah.
videos are the woodworking videos where they have like just pieces of wood or different pieces of wood that they've glued together, or and then they create something with those, like it's just a screwdriver or whatever,
Yeah.
and it has spinning. Those are my favorite ones. Like I could watch those for hours.
And
Yeah.
they're so simple. It's like hundreds of hours of work sped up and just short clips and then music
Yeah.
layover and then so.
It's so satisfying to watch, though. It's incredible.
I'd love to watch that. Honestly, now that you've planted that in my head, I'm going to expect that video from you, Peter.
It's gonna come. Like
gonna
probably
Okay.
not this week, probably not next week, but sometime before Christmas, I hope.
Oh, awesome.
it's
That's
gonna be a
awesome.
fun one. So, what about you? Like Michael, what would you do on if you had a YouTube channel on my size? Say that you have 400,000 subscribers.
Okay.
What kind of content would you love to do with a channel that has 400,000 subscribers?
That's really funny because no one's asked me that
Cool
before.
question.
I know. It got flipped right now. Now
It
I'm
did.
like sweating. Like I don't know what to say. Wait a minute.
Now he's
I
nervous.
am nervous. Actually, you know what? My gut reaction would be, it would have to do something about being a dad. So it would have to, yeah, because that's really where my passion is. Like, and I never knew this. I never knew this when I, started out. Like when I became a parent. Like, this is a true story. I don't think I've told Chelsea this. Like when we were all, non-parents, what do you call them? Single? I don't know. Like when we didn't have kids. When we
Humans?
didn't have kids.
Non-parent.
Normal people.
Normal people.
When we had sleep?
Yes, exactly.
I was about to say when we had
well rested people. When we were well rested people,
Yes.
I was terrified of carrying anyone's baby or child anywhere. It's like, like we have a big family, and whenever we're in like family gatherings, people would give me like the baby and be like, here, hold the baby. And I'm terrified. Like I look like I was holding like a block of ice. You know what I mean? It's just like, I just want to let go, not let go, but set it down somewhere and just like leave it there. I was terrified.
Someone come get this. I'm leaving it here.
That's seriously how I felt. And they knew me to be like that. And then when I had my first child, it didn't happen like right away. I had some struggle, and this is probably what my content would be. How I changed from that person to become a father when I first saw my daughter, and then I was just like that whole process that's happening inside me was just like I was worried. I was actually worried that I wasn't having any connection with my daughter, because it's like, am I supposed to feel something? Because in the movies, the dad was crying. You know what I mean? In the movies, the dad was so happy.
I know the exact feeling.
Right? So that's probably what I would be putting on that channel. And, that journey, and then how it's changed me and how it feels now. Because like I said, I never knew I would be so passionate about being a father and, about my kids. So that's probably going to be my channel.
I could see
Awesome.
that being very documentary-esque.
Yeah, I'm going to have Chelsea
Yeah.
shoot it, because mine is going
That
to be
could
just
be- yeah.
clunky as heck. So
So
Be
what
good,
about
like-
you, Chelsea? What about you?
Yeah, I was thinking about it because I knew my turn was coming. So I would definitely do probably series of short films, all very
Awesome.
overly cinematic. Yeah.
overly
love to do that.
cinematic.
Overly, like disgustingly cinematic. Like, whoa, she spent too much time on that.
I love
There's
that.
too
though.
much cinematic.
I know. This
Too
thing
much.
is too good.
Yeah. I just love like short films and documentaries and docu-series. So I would probably do something like that. I don't have the capacity to do that on my own because I feel like you would need like a team of people. So
Do you really?
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you would.
Why
I
don't you
mean,
just?
who am I?
Go ahead.
It's like I think if you start shooting one of those videos, I think it's gonna take it's probably going to take a lot longer if you're alone, but it's going to help to be a lot more people. And I think that if you would like to create that kind of content, I would recommend you to do it yourself to begin with, because that would be interesting to see, especially if you rig up a behind the scenes camera, how you got all the different shots.
Yeah.
You
That's
see
a
that,
really good
Chelsea?
idea.
Yeah, you see that?
I know. I'm kind of inspired.
You and your
now.
silly excuses. I'm sorry, my camera just disappeared.
I saw it.
Yeah, I know.
It
you saw
said
that.
it was
Yeah, it's overheating. So all you see is a blank space, but that's fine.
Peter, I was gonna ask you, are you a Sony shooter or Canon, or do you do both or neither?
Sony.
Okay, I thought so because I watched the vlog that you did. Well, it was like what's in your camera bag / vlog with Teppo Hokoya. I loved that, by the way. Yeah, so my favorite scene, I guess, in that video was when you guys arrived at the cabin and you were outside and you were like, let me see what the Sony can do. And you like really cranked up the ISO and everything was super grainy and blown out, but you could still see what was going on. I don't know. I like the simple things I like.
The camera actually saw more than our eyes were seeing.
Than what you guys were saying. I know. That's why I loved it so much.
weird.
I'm like,
We should try to
That's cool.
convert Chelsea to go Team Sony.
A7S3, all that I had to say.
I
I'm
am
not going to be
so-
disappointed.
I'm so invested in Canon. Everything I have is Canon.
Yeah, we just
so
want to give you a hard time. That's all.
I know. I know.
Right.
Oh, Peter. So before we end this, can you share with the ladies and gentlemen where we can find you? Maybe I understand you also have a podcast. You can talk about that as well. Share that, and anything else.
Absolutely. You can join me on Instagram at Peter Lindgren 1 and on YouTube at Peter Lindgren. And then I have a podcast together with my buddy Tom. It's called A Podcast with Peter and Tom.
I like
I
that.
love that.
I do too. That's cool.
A podcast. What's
Yeah,
your podcast?
so-
It's a podcast. No. What's your podcast? It's a podcast.
A podcast. Yeah, that's great.
And that's basically it. I'm not using any other social media, just YouTube, Instagram. But I'm doing a lot of fun things on Instagram. So if you wanna follow me in real time, that is the place to be.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, I follow Peter.
Great.
So that's
And
awesome.
thank you, Michael and Chelsea, for having me on the podcast. It was a pleasure.
Of course.
Oh my gosh, Peter.
Thank you
Yeah.
for saying yes and for coming on board. I was completely shocked when Michael said that you had agreed. I was like, no way. Like, why? Why did he say
this
yes?
scrappy little thing. I know.
Yeah.
And we hope that even for this brief amount of time that we spent with you, that you had fun. Hopefully that
I had a lot of fun.
Okay, good. As long as you
Great
didn't have a
time.
terrible time, we'll take
No,
it as
I
a
had
win.
a great time.
Awesome.
You guys are great hosts, so thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So
Thank you very much.
Michael doesn't know this, but my goal for this podcast to meet all of these incredible people around the world that we're meeting. I eventually want to vlog myself going and meeting all of these people in these different countries. Like I've never said that out loud, but it sounds really fun to me.
That actually is pretty
So
cool.
when I make it to Sweden, I will let you know.
You're welcome.
Or if you
I
ever...
have
wanna come
two
check out
hammocks
that-
in the studio, so we can hang out, watch some TV, and have a beer, something like that.
That
wanna
sounds
go
so
there.
fun. I want to hang out in that studio. I see like some Nerf guns or something back there. It looks really
Yeah.
fun.
Oh,
I'm coming.
you're not
You're
leaving without
welcome.
me, Chelsea.
You too, Michael.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome to.
Thank you.
Michael, he'll be tagging along. So, well, thank
That's
you so
great.
much for hanging out with us again. And you guys who are listening, don't forget to subscribe if you're listening on iTunes. Leave us a review because Michael obsesses about reading them. And hit the stars and rate us because it helps with the algorithm and all of that fun stuff. Thank you guys once again for hanging out with your coffee and pizza crew. Until next time, I'm Chelsea,
And I'm Michael.
signing off.
Bye.